Hi all, Shane here, Long 67. I would have, sorry, I have a bit of a head cold, so you're going to have to excuse me. I hope you all had a nice Halloween. I think today is November 2nd. So yeah, I'm just doing a little bit of work here on my SD or KZF should I say, 251/C Panera Wagon, which is from Mordor Games for bolt action. I was going to actually, I thought I'd make a video on it because I've come across not a problem, but something that many people talk about and they're not quite sure what to do once they've mounted onto a model and things go wrong. And these are, what I'm referring to are these two resin pieces. Now, I may or may not have remembered to wash I always wash your resin in warm soapy water, always. Because sometimes released powder and oil stays on the surface of the resin, and your paint will do this. They'll kind of evaporate because you just can't take to it. Now, I've already super glued these in, being a silly boy. So what am I going to do? Well, to basically give me a surface in which to apply more paint, I'm actually going to, and I find this works quite well, I'm actually going to lay matte varnish over it, and I actually find that works. It gives me a new surface for the paint to stay to, and because varnish is a bit tougher, it doesn't tend to evaporate. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm just going to take, in this case, Vallejo acrylic matte varnish. This is just the big bottle. I believe this is the 60ml. I have this for almost 2 years now and it's still going. So I hope you had a really nice Halloween. My Halloween was pretty nice. I was went out to actually several parties. Not bragging, it was nice. A few of my friends from secondary school texted me out of the blue and asked me to go out. I was like, definitely. You know, it was always good to meet up with some old mates you haven't seen in a little while. And we had a good old time. And then on the next day I went out again with some other friends and went back to theirs, back to theirs for the night. It's really good. But then when I came home the next morning, I just noticed I just felt like crap. So I'd say like the two night outs kind of had a bit of an effect. So fair price to pay, right? So I all hope you had nice Halloweens and that you're all safe and sound. Because I know Halloween can be a bit of a dodgy time when it wants to be. And not just the ghosts and ghouls. The more idiots who nothing better do with their time on Halloweens tend to get up to no good. But so first things first, I'm just going to apply there we go, I'm just back blasting this. There we go. I know you shouldn't do that, but well. But so I'm going to say a couple of quick shout outs first. I want to say a very sincere shout out to a new friend I've made in the community, and I hope you're all going to go over to his channel, give him a subscription and as much feedback, because he's a great guy and he's a returning model maker. I think he was 35 years, he's saying he was built a model last, and that's James Wilcox. Really nice chap, well worth go over his channel. I have a link in the description. Please go over, subscribe him, and support him, because it's always good to support returning hobbyists. I also want to say quick shout out to Styrene Phoenix, again for all your support and encouragement over the last couple of months. I've really appreciated it. Also a big shout out to Liberator 240. Again, I'll have a link to his channel in my description. There's a lot of Napoleonic figures and some of the most beautiful figures I have yet encountered. So definitely go over. He's working on some Waterloo themed Dutch, I believe, in Belgians. So go over and have a look see. And there's a few other people I'm trying to think of too. I really need to start taking. I really need to start writing down names of people I want to give shout outs to, because I always tend to forget one or two and I always feel bad for it then. So that's grand. I applied a little bit too much there, but I'm just going to apply some air. There's no paint coming out of my airbrush. I'm just blasting air onto the surface, just trying to dry that, because I went a little bit too heavy there because I kind of forgot what I was doing. And there you go. So this will give us a new surface on which to apply paint. and it works quite well, I find. And if the first coat doesn't work, maybe give another coat or two of varnish and we're good to go. I know some people who will wash their resin and then actually coat it in varnish then just to make sure. So, it's all down to personal preference. I just find this is a very quick recovery method and it works quite well. So yeah, so what did I get up to anyway? But as I was saying to some of the lads, I was going to do some Halloween-y videos. I know I kind of missed the boat, but I'll tell you some of our messed up little stories, like our mythology that isn't just Halloween specific, that these things actually are meant to occur all year round. And that was my phone. What was going on there? Who'd be texting me? No one would be texting me because no one loves me. Except you. Okay, anyway, so we have some really cool mythology, and often they're quite dark as well. We have one which is at the bank. We all know the Banshee. That's the one that's kind of exported all over the world. We all know her. She's a harbinger of death, basically a female reaper. Ironically, a lot of people don't know this. She's only really connected to the royal dynasties of Ireland, as in the O'Neills and the O'Connors, and the family dynasty of the Brews and what have you. So she was more like the harbinger of the royal family, the Birafinna's deaths, which was the Irish royal families. So we have her. We also have a coach that is drawn by 4 beautiful, like, jet black horses, like red glowing eyes, and the coach is also like perfect black. It's almost like something from Bram Stoker's Dracula. But the coach master is headless. And if you see him, you die, as you do. Then we have another version of that, depending on which part of the country you're in, where it's the same type of coach, but this time the coach master does have his head firmly attached to his shoulders, but there are 3 attractive bodied women, but the only problem is that they're missing their heads, and if you see them, you die in 48 hours. We also have a vampire. We have several vampire-like characters in Irish mythology. Tend mostly to be women, ironically. Maybe they were trying to be ironic. So like one girl was in love with like a commoner, someone who's below her social standing, and she wanted to marry him, and her father went, "No, you can't do it, or you'll bring shame to the family, blah 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 blah." And which happens in a lot of Irish mythology and stories. She goes off and drops herself, because apparently that's what Irish people do in fucking bad situations. Anyway, that explains the national crisis we have with that at the moment. But anyway, so she goes off, and so heartbroken, she does away with herself in the most tragic way. But as she is dying, she vows revenge on her father and on the husband that he forced upon her, who was like abusive and hurt her. So what she did was she rose from the grave, and she basically became like a demon-like character, and basically she sucked them dry. She like a vampire, she fed on them and she drained them of all their blood. Not the other type of sucking, you filthy animals. And then, things like once a year on the anniversary of her death, apparently, she's meant to rise forth from her unmarked grave, and she'll hunt couples that are in love and murder the men just because she is jealous. A lot of jealousy in Irish mythology is all I have to say. You know what I mean? So there you go, some other little bits and pieces. There's a lot more to it too. Like there's actually, I was telling Andy about this actually a couple of months back. I don't know if he's remembered, so I'll tell you the story again. Like we had a kind of like a weird spooky encounter maybe 4 or 5 years ago, actually a bit longer, so they'd be pushing 6 now. We have a thing called a boreen in Ireland, and a boreen, they exist the world over just under different names. A boreen is a very narrow kind of cattle track road, like a country road, but it's only wide enough for maybe a single car. So like that's boreens is what we call our old country roads, and they originally would have been livestock tracks and what have you. And but they have been built up, there'll be houses along them and old farmsteads and what have you, Very quiet, can be quite relaxing to walk on as long as they're not too busy, because then they can get dangerous because there's often there's ditches and they're somewhat overgrown, so a car might not see you until he hits you. Then he'll see you pretty quickly plastered across the fucking windscreen. Anyway, so we are walking along this boring that's just maybe about a kilometre and a half away from my home. We're very familiar with this area, this road, because we used to walk it a lot. And it's not too overgrown because it's quite well, there's a lot of people living on this road, a lot of people jog and run it, so it's quite well known, it's quite safe, you know, I never heard of anyone ever getting hurt down there. And it was around this time of year, and we were walking, meeting my mate Ronan, and we were walking up this road at night, just having a chat. Like, that's what we used to do, because when you were younger there wasn't really much to do nothing, right? Either you went drinking underage, you got hooked on drugs, or you just kind of wandered around like we did, you know. We weren't really into the whole, like, drinking scene until we turned more of age, like, and we never had touched drugs, like, so that's why we weren't really spending much time in the town. And so we used to walk this road quite regularly, and we were very aware, we were very kind of comfortable and familiar with it, and we were fine. And this particular boring has a very long stretching hill. It's actually the hill I do most of my running on. It's an absolute bastard of a hill to run up. It's I said the hill goes up for at least 800 meters. No, not quite 800, but about maybe 450, 500 meters. I'm Irish. I would say over exaggerate slightly, but it is about a half a mile of a hill going up, and it's long. And then it will drop for about maybe 350, 400 meters on the other side. It's quite a long hill. And we had walked over the hill, and we were going down the reverse slope. And for some reason, I turned around. I always have a habit of just looking behind me, just to make sure there's no car coming up or something like that, you know, or make sure there's, like, I guess just being your situational awareness. And I just see this person walking across the top of the road about maybe 60, 70 meters uphill from us. And how you can see them is because the town it's only about a kilometre away as the crow flies on the other side of that ridgeline, that hill. So all the light pollution is making anything silhouette on the horizon. We just see it, and I was around to my mate going, "Oh Jesus, who's that?" Like, no, we didn't try and go, "Oh Jesus, ghost." No, we're like, "Who's that?" You know, who's this person walking around the fields on this rather damp winter's night? And bear in mind, this is November. There's no livestock in the fields. Like, you know, I mean, all the cattle are in their sheds and in their winter. They're wintering, like. So we were like, oh, maybe it's just a farmer. That's the first thing that went through the mind, because there was an old farmhouse that some farmer families originate from. So we just assumed someone was living in there, and that's fine. And they were watching them. And we're like, God, they're dressed a bit weird. They appear to be wearing a cloak. And like, yeah, who wears a cloak? You know, is this some type of eccentric, like? And then, and this was only the space of about 15 seconds. It's just, you know what I mean, we were just kind of discussing this aloud, like, you know, like brainstorming, because we were curious. And then the person stopped mid-point across the road, almost like they kind of realised that they were being watched, and wheeled. They didn't turn, they wheeled. Anyone who's been in the army, when you do your left face, right face, it was something like that, but just not as robotic, it was a bit more fluid. And they started walking down the road towards us, or down the hill, and we're like, okay, let's go the opposite direction, because we were thinking, crazy person, and we're going to get knifed any second now. You know what I mean? We have about 55, 70 metre head start with this person, let's keep it that way. So we turn around and start walking the opposite direction, and at the end of the hill it turns into a T-junction, so we turn left heading towards about half a k away from the main road that'll bring him back down to my house. And we were very keen, we were very kind of making sure our heads were like swiveling over our shoulders to keep an eye on this person wandering down the hill behind us. And as we come off the hill and we're taking the turn, we're still on the boring, like all this area is quite countryside, like, you know, it's all fields to your left and right, you know. The civilized world is about maybe a half a kilometre away, or sorry, about a kilometre and a half away, depending which direction you're going. And we hear footsteps in front of us. I'm like, oh shit, this person has just texted ahead for their mates. No, this is an ambush. We're going to get mugged. So there's stone walls either side, as in, like, you know, the loose stone walls that are kind of very synonymous with Ireland and some other, like, European countries. So we can hear these footsteps and some like low, like mumbling chat in front of us. So we're picking rocks off the wall, getting ready to smash the fuck out of anything that comes near us. Because we're so unnerved that we've assumed this is a mugging. Because, no, we're not thinking supernatural, we're thinking we're getting mugged. So we're about to nail these two bastards as they come out of the dark, and then we realise they're just two joggers. We're like, oh, they're trying to put the rocks behind their back, going, hey, how are you? You know, that way, they're trying to act cool, and then we're not half scared to death. And they're walking up the road and turning up the hill that's going to bring them into like an intercept pass of the person walking down. Because remember, the road is quite narrow, and it was walking down the middle of the road, and they're walking up the middle of the road, so they're going to bump in. And I was like turning to my mate going, look, just watch these two joggers to see will they run into them. And we were watching, and we can see the two joggers even in the dark, and they're about maybe 50 metres behind us. But again, it's one of those nights that's kind of hazy and everything tends to silhouette. And we can see them going up the hill, and they keep going. They run into no one. And we look at each other going, yeah, let's go the other way now. You know what I mean? So, one of my friends lives in a farmhouse not too far away from all this happened. Literally, it was actually on the same road. And I asked her, going like, this is years ago now, since we were falling out with this person. And I just turned around to her going like, have you ever seen anything weird up on that road? And she goes, you have no idea. Apparently there's an old famine village up there. They're saying when they're ploughing their fields, they find a lot of the foundations of their homes. Anyone who doesn't know what the famine was, in the 1840s, Ireland had a massive potato blight that, because of how the English rule was set up in this country, all of the foods, all our meat stocks and most of our valuable crops were basically confiscated by the landlords to be sold. So the only thing that the working peasants and farmhands really had to live off was the potato. So that means you had potatoes for breakfast, dinner and lunch, or lunch and dinner. And when the blight came, it wiped out the entire harvest in Ireland, and actually quite across Europe too. Actually caused a lot of mini famines in countries as well. I believe Germany got very badly hit by it as well. So a lot of people began to starve to death. And I think it killed over 1 million people. And the more kind of patriotic, anti-British people in this country will blame that was a British orchestrated genocide, but I don't believe that. They try to help with setting up workhouses, but it actually backfired because you put hungry and sick people into a confined workhouse, disease is rampant, and that's what happened. It killed off even more people than the bloody sickness or than the starvation did. So she was saying like it's most likely you're probably watching like something like a spirit or whatever. You know, and I kind of do seeing is believing, like, you know. I do. It's not even that I'm not religious, like, but I'm more like borderline atheist. But I do have a kind of soft spot for these type of ghost stories and for our mythology and what have you and our folklore. So that's a couple of little stories. So yeah. It's been a while since I had a kind of chat into down the camera to you, so I thought I'll give you some of our weird little Christmas, some of our weird Halloween stories. Yeah, you have to forgive my kind of, how I'm stumbling about words or mispronouncing or even getting things wrong. It's just because, like, when you have a head cold and your mind's a little bit kind of hazed. So, my train of thought's kind of interrupted by it. But yeah, so that's about it, and it was a really, it was an interest, and like the thing was, we were so fascinated by that sighting that we went up that boring every night for about 6 months after, trying to see it again, and we never did. I think we saw it once more 4 years later wandering down a field, and again the same thing went through our mind. Was it just a farmer? It's just something innocent? Was it our imaginations? What have you? You know, we're trying to apply logic to it. You know what I mean? And especially people go, oh, but science, like, no, but see, science can't prove that they don't exist either. That's the thing. So you have to kind of, it's one of those things going like, on the basis of what we have, we believe they don't exist, you know. But yeah, it was a very interesting experience, and it wasn't all that nice either. Like, it was kind of a very unpleasant experience in many ways, because you don't really understand what's happening. So you're kind of sitting there, kind of going like, you know, what were you meant to do, you know? Is it a person? Is it this? Is it something else? Is it something more sinister? So yeah, it's quite interesting. And we have hundreds of stories like that, you know, plenty of like haunted homes that have particularly twisted backstories to them. You know, like Loftus Hall down in Hookhead, down near Waterford. It's one of the most haunted houses in the country, I believe, but that's a story for another time. because I'm running out of time on this video. So yeah, so that's just a quick little video. So I kind of want to finish this model before I do any other projects, because I'm saying I'm going to be working on my T62 once this is finished. So I just want to get this done and get my Panzerschreck team done for bolt action. So I might start going down to my local gaming store with 2 of my own armies and see can I guess drum up any interest. Convert some of the guys off 40k, because as I was saying to one of the lads, like I was really keen on getting back into 40k from like the likes of Temper's Crusade, and his videos kind of inspire me because I like the Horus Heresy, and you know, their videos really inspire you because they embody kind of the real pro of the game, which is, you know, a really social event and a lot of modelling. And I tried to, and I just couldn't get back into it. The rules are just too much micromanagement in them. And I'm also very happy to see that he's got into bolt action, so that's cool. It'll be cool to see what type of boards he does for that. Anyway, so that's just my rambling done for well, almost 20 minutes now. And if you have watched this for 20 minutes, wow, thank you so much. And also, I just hope you all had a lovely Halloween. I hope you're all safe. Nothing negative happened. You didn't get any firework fights. And you're recovering from what I suspect to be quite severe hangovers. So that's about it. I'm going to sign off now. So again, I'll have links to those channels in my video, or in my description if I remember to, but they will be there. And I do hope you go over and give them some support. So again, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, happy modelling, and watch out for those buses. Bye bye.